negative capability. That is when man and woman is capable of being in uncertainties, mysteries, doubts, without any irritable reaching after fact and reason. It's a strange sounding, counterintuitive concept which prizes surrender and wonder above striving and rigorous thinking. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. How in the hell can this possibly be the key to success and happiness, especially in today's knowledge-obsessed, hyper-competitive world? I get it. But trust me, this is not a passive, anti-intellectual point of view, and it's no easy feat, as you will soon discover. I mean, have you ever approached a situation and remained negative, open to possibility, able to resist your instincts to define and direct the experience, to project an outcome and, tie your happiness to that outcome? For most people, I mean, other than children who have no past or future and are therefore free, it's a rare experience. And yet, it is one rich in harmony, insight, and most importantly, for today's confused and polarized world, calm assurance. Let me share a personal experience with you. When I was young, I wanted to be an artist. Or maybe I was an artist and I simply wasn't aware of it. I spent years in art class learning to observe and to experience, drawing and painting the sensual curves and complex colors of everything and anything from lower backs to Bartlett pears. My last intense experience of seeing and sensing with a brush in my hand seems like a dream. It was decades ago, and I distinctly remember being lost in a euphoric, creative state, totally immersed in an explosion of colors and textures. I will never forget that feeling or my art teacher's startling observation of my finished work. "Well," he said, "you don't need any more instruction. You'll probably quit now." It was a strange comment, and I really had no idea what to make of it. Well, the years passed, and I'm not sure how he knew, but from that day forward, I stopped being an artist. I still went to art school, and I still painted, and I still do today, but I became more interested in art than experiencing reality with a brush in my hand. It probably happened when my well-intentioned father asked me how I was going to pay off my college loans as an artist. In any event, I shut my eyes to the brilliance of the real world and indulged my mind in the artificial world of concepts, achievement, and popularity. My focus shifted from the experience of painting to the outcome, to the paintings, and my internal state shifted with it. I've been watching the world go through a similar passage. I mean, we used to be deeply involved in the precious living world of nature and of our families, friends, co-workers, and communities, viscerally experiencing their unique colors and textures. We used to relax and listen with awareness and respond with heartfelt caring to their frailties, fears, and dreams. And without personal reflection, without desire or judgment. We were part of it, all of it, and it was part of us. Today, we mindlessly interact with the world in an armor of certainty and calculation, strutting around while staring down at our phones. I mean, we're immersed in our little world as the stars of our own serious movies. If something appears to be an annoyance or too difficult for us, we just tune it out and keep on moving. We rush around multitasking, impatiently attempting to figure out and deal with everything and everyone. all in an attempt to appease the anxious and impatient central character in our delusional scripts. In fact, many organizations train people to follow actual scripts and to do so as quickly as possible. And it's all because of stories. Hero, goals, obstacles, a fixed identity, you, and a fixation on outcomes, some happy place in the future. A hypnotic story reinforced by the world around you telling you how to feel, anxious and worried, and what to do to be safe and successful. What you've always done or have been told to do. Don't relax and let go. Don't do what you truly feel like doing. You may not survive. It's a mindset that limits your potential and possibilities. This alluring, insidious shift from experience to outcomes, from now to later, seems to confound many people. It certainly screwed me up when I was in art school. It's kind of like the seductive songs of the mythical sirens who lured ignorant sailors to shipwreck on the rocky coast with their enchanting, all-knowing voices. A hypnotized friend once asked me, "So, what's wrong with having a goal? Like making a lot of money, as long as you have the right reason for having that goal. Like, being able to provide for myself and my family, free of worry." I'll tell you what's wrong. Other than the fact that he'll teach his children to do the same thing he's doing, and then they'll teach their children, and so on, ad infinitum, such that no one ever really lives. Let's say you're planning your wedding, and your goal is to make that day perfect for everyone. That seems like the right reason, doesn't it? And so you obsess over all of the details, the venue, the food, the cake, the dresses, the music. Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that creation process, assuming that it makes you and your partner happy, and that you're both doing it to bring joy to other people's lives as well. But instead, it typically stresses people out, doesn't it? Because they're not living the experience. What they are actually doing is living for an outcome, a display of who they think they are and how they want others to perceive them. And even when their wedding day finally arrives, couples remain in that anxious story, trying to control everything and everyone. Unable to truly let go and be one with the celebrants. There's your analogy for life. Because like my friend, most people get up in the morning and do things that they don't really like doing, pinning their happiness on impressing people or fulfilling some future goal. And they rationalize their behavior by convincing themselves that it's an honorable thing to do, because that's what people like them do. And after all, they are doing it to benefit others. I remember giving an evening talk on leadership to executives of a very well-known organization. And during Q&A, one of the executives asked me, somewhat rhetorically, how it was that I could choose to leave the security of a career that simply ceased to be interesting and meaningful to me. It's a funny question, isn't it? She was aware from my bio that I've done that many times during my career. So she asked me, "Do you have any children?" There it was. There was the question. "I do have children," I replied. 2 daughters. She leaned towards me, a puzzled squint in her eye. I immediately sensed her personal situation and her dilemma. So I continued. "And I believe my job as a parent is not to provide security and comfort for my children, but rather to be a living example, to show them through my actions that they don't have to be afraid to live their lives however they feel like living them. Now, I got to tell you, she was a bit taken aback by my response. But later that evening, I sensed her realization of the truth of my statement and of her life choices in the huge tears that welled up in her eyes. She was literally living that old joke. You know, why do parents give advice to their children? Because they can't be an example. Be an example. Do what inspires you. And whatever you're doing, do it with conscious intent and with passion. Be the best, most inner-driven person you can be. Look, this way of approaching life, giving up your self-important story and the need to control everything and joyfully experiencing the shifting experience, it's a very different state of consciousness. I mean, I've heard it referred to as presence. Athletes call it being in the zone. The psychologist Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, best known as the originator of the psychological concept of flow, describes it like this: being completely involved in an activity for its own sake. The ego falls away. Time flies. Every action, movement, and thought follows inevitably from the previous one. Like playing jazz, your whole being is involved and you're using your skills to the utmost. I mean, that certainly describes my transcendent painting experience. And I've experienced that wonderful feeling of flow in various aspects of my life. And I'm sure you've experienced it as well. Being alone in nature, or while playing a musical instrument, or working on a project. And why does it feel so damn good? Because we've stepped out of our stifling self-story. We've shut off Coleridge, our anxious, goal-obsessed mind, and have become fully involved with what's right in front of us, immersed in the current of life. In the classic comedy film Caddyshack, Chevy Chase's Zen-like character gives some golfing advice to his young caddy. He says, there's a force in the universe that makes things happen, and all you have to do is get in touch with it. Stop thinking. Let things happen and be the ball. It's a very funny scene, but ironically, very true as well. I've experienced that essence of the universe repeatedly. The subject and the object become one. Be the ball. Yes, when playing sports, don't obsess over the outcome and force your performance. Just be the ball. When surfing, relax and be one with the waves. When communing with nature, let go and be the mountain, the trees, the birds, the stars. Indeed, you can step out of your everyday life and experience a new reality while meditating, painting, playing a sport, or in the presence of transcendent art or natural beauty. And that's because those experiences naturally pull you out of your story. There are no mental distractions, and you don't have to consciously give up part of yourself, like your strongly held beliefs or your position of status and power. But the truly important question is, can you step into everyday life with that same dynamic, effortless, and unself-conscious state of mind? Can you carry it with you at home, at work, online, and inline at the grocery store? That's negative capability, and that is the key to a joyful and successful life. You see, John Keats was impressed with Shakespeare precisely for his unique ability to shed his fixed sense of self, his worldly identity, and be present in a flow state with others, free of his personal worldview. In another one of his letters to a friend, Keats described this trait as the poetical character or chameleon poet. It has no self. It is everything and nothing, he wrote. It has no character. It enjoys light and shade. It lives in gusto, be it foul or fair, high or low, rich or poor, mean or elevated. The poetic self has no self. Both Keats and Shakespeare possess this paradoxical nature of self with no self. No ego, identity, but a very big ego essence. Humble and yet supremely confident at the same time. Not really paradoxical, but balanced. And it was that balanced poetical self, the open-mindedness and strength of internal spirit, the unwavering security in their own skins, which allowed them to let go of assumptions, embrace ambiguity, and take in the full-scale experience of being alive. The ability to embrace both negative capability and their personal convictions without letting one inhabit the depth of the other allowed them to see the world through others' eyes and perceive the mysteries, joys, and sufferings of the world, the essence behind people's words and actions. There's a story. It's about two monks who are traveling together. And at one point, they came to a river with a really strong current. And as they were preparing to cross the river, they saw a beautiful young woman standing at the river's edge. I mean, she was clearly at a loss as to how to cross to the other side. Well, the two monks glanced at each other because they had taken vows not to touch a woman. Then, without a word, the elder monk walked over and gestured to her to pick her up. Shocked, she obliged. He put her over his shoulder, waded across to the other side, and put her down gently. She paid her respects, and he bowed, and he walked on. Now, the younger monk, he couldn't believe what he had just seen. After rejoining his companion, he was speechless. About an hour passed without a word between them when finally the young monk could no longer contain himself, and he blurted out, "How could you do that? We're not even supposed to make eye contact with a woman, let alone pick her up and carry her." Without a thought, the elder monk turned to the younger monk and said, "Oh, are you still carrying her with you? I put her down and left her on the other side of the stream." To be a chameleon is to extricate your inner self from your identity and social roles. Yes, you will find, yourself in many different roles in life depending on the circumstances. I mean, like Shakespeare said, all the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts. But you will not be of those parts, of those roles. Like the elder monk, you'll acknowledge the unimportance of your identity, which will liberate you from the grips of Coleridge and allow you to transform and adapt to your environment and circumstances. To leave your thinking mind and enter the world of pure experience and imagination, where your conscious inner spirit is present with others in an authentic, empathetic, and non-judgmental way. As the poet Rumi wrote, take someone who doesn't keep score, who's not looking to be richer or afraid of losing, who has not the slightest interest even in his own personality. He's free. And once you are free, once you know that you are a nobody, then you can be anybody. When you no longer feel the need to be special, life becomes special. You can stay committed to your inner truth without trying to remain consistent and be who everyone expects you to be. Do you see? You're not trying to become something. You're trying to unbecome. I mean, I've heard it said to me, "Oh, Tom, how unbecoming of you." Look, when I'm with people, I instinctively shift to become one with them. I don't care if they're celebrities, students, executives, wait staff, college friends, gym buddies, the elderly, children. It doesn't matter. I experience with them from their point of view. I mean, when I play with my dog Sugar, I become a dog. I wrestle her to the ground and bite her ears and neck. I'm one with her. I don't care what she does or what people think. I don't care what children do when I'm with them. I mean, this may sound preposterous, but to possess negative capability means to be disinterested. Being disinterested, not caring one way or the other about meaning or outcomes, but simply being one with the experience, opens you up to a vaster realm of understanding and connection. Shakespeare, he became one with people, and so he was able to understand and connect deeply with them and write emotionally truthful and powerful plays. Keats became one with nature, with the reality of the world, and was uniquely able to express that reality in poetry. Great company leaders become one with their employees and customers and co-create motivating and mutually beneficial experiences. How about you? Can you be the waitstaff at a busy restaurant? Can you be the single mother working a part-time job as a cashier? Can you be your children and feel what they are feeling? Can you feel people's stress-filled, hypnotic characters and situations? Can you relax and be the other person? Yes, it requires that you slow down. Yes, it's messy and sometimes unsettling, and yes, it's subjective and therefore unpredictable and non-linear. But this state of mind is the key to a curious, compassionate, and creative life. Keats's 3 C's and the subject of our next 3 sessions. Remember, the state of mind with the most influence over your life is the one in charge of your intentions. You see, Keats's intention is to create and to share, to live a life brimming with passion, exploration, and affection. He's an artist turned on by emotive desire. Like a wild-eyed child, he's pulled by curiosity and schooled by discomfort and failure. Keats looks at the world of infinite possibility and wonders, why the hell not? Coleridge's goal, on the other hand, is to make everything predictable and stable. Coleridge is an expert craftsman, skilled in the rights and wrongs of the world, and turned on by the desire to accumulate, avoid risk, and to conform. Like a paranoid helicopter parent, he wants everything to be safe, comfortable, and acceptable. Coleridge looks at every situation and thinks, but what will happen if? To live a successful life, you need to be conscious or meta-aware of the working relationship between Keats and Coleridge. You have to wake up and listen without judgment to the constant poetic struggle going on between your ears. The Scottish philosopher David Hume postulated that reason is and ought only be the slave of the passions. I mean, he even went so far as to call reason impotent. I happen to agree with Hume's preference, but unfortunately, reasoning Coleridge isn't a slave. He has his own desires, and he will tap into Keats's feelings and make him his slave if you let him. Okay, by now you are well aware of Coleridge's desires, how he measures success and what he considers a good life. I mean, it's been drilled into you since you were a child. In fact, it's so pervasive and entrenched in our society that Merriam-Webster's online dictionary listed as the very first definition of success: the fact of getting or achieving wealth, respect, or fame. Wealth, respect, and fame. 3 positive goals that lead to success. Positive because the goal is to get or achieve more. In fact, the more, the better. At least that's what we've been led to believe. But what if the achievement of true success emerges by subtraction? What if the secret to living a meaningful, vibrant, and rewarding life requires us to pursue a negative goal? That's negative capability. To negate the self-concerned, conditioned thinking mind. It's not something that you do or achieve. It's something that you undo. You unwind your conscious mind, suspend the act of possession and comparison, and relax into a state of acceptance, unself-consciousness, and receptivity. Listen, it's a daunting and relentless task because we're wired to strive and accumulate, to look ahead, figure things out, and hold tightly to what we have. Again, it's probably why our bloodline survived while our more Keatsian ancestors met their demise. I mean, they were smelling roses and drinking wine, while our ancestral progenitors were busy sharpening stones and hoarding food. But that was then. This is now. I mean, to obsessively plan and calculate in today's modern connected world is to lock yourself away in an instrumental prison, sheltered from the vibrancy of life. Instead, you must let go of your incessant desire to know, to predict, and to influence, and instead be willing to experience the mystery of the present without corrupting it with questions. Now, of course, you will never master negative capability, just as Zen monks never master enlightenment. I mean, why they're called Zen masters is another mystery. Rather, it is something you practice. It's a new way of being that will slowly shift the way you perceive the world and experience life. One that will help you distinguish the voices in your head and which will progressively reveal internal insights that move you to embrace your truest self and create a unique and inspiring life. As the beloved poet John Henry Newman wrote, "If we insist on being as sure as is conceivable, we must be content to creep along the ground and can never soar. Let us get up off the ground of certainty and embrace the wild beauty and mystery of being alive. And let's start by tapping into our innate curiosity, the first of Keats's 3 empowering C's."